Today I want to just start with session on corporate performance evaluation. Now, if we need to just get an understanding and just get an introduction, measuring performance of a corporate organization. Now, this has a greater importance, and you need to just understand what is this real importance. Any corporate organization has a main social role, and it really serves the society. So then the performance evaluation really based on its delivery. And for an organization, there are several stakeholders, and the organization has to serve for these stakeholders. Performance evaluation is a part of their day-to-day monitoring with regard to the organization. Our discussion today will be based on several important aspects of performance evaluation. Now, I think you all know it has been a accounting exercise for a long time. And basically, it depended on financial ratios, financial parameters and all. But later on, it was established that financial parameters alone cannot give a holistic performance evaluation of an organization. So therefore, the parameters should not be only financial. There will be non-financial parameters also. Not only quantitative, qualitative also. So therefore, in performance evaluation of corporates, all these things to be taken into consideration. In the history, what happened was, these evaluations mainly based on financial ratios. And those financial ratios were calculated on the basis of historical information. So there's no futuristic indication except the trend obtained from the historical information. So therefore, those historical based performance evaluation has not delivered the expected results. The expected level of awareness was not possible with that. Therefore, in recent past, there have been several innovations with regard to this performance evaluation. One such innovation today we are going to talk on that. This is initiated by Kaplan and Norton. So we call it, I think you all have heard about it, balanced scorecard. Now, as a performance evaluation method, we are trying to get the practical aspects of balanced scorecard. Today's session based on these factors today. So the balance scorecard. Anyway, now even without using the name, the balance scorecard, you will see the comprehensiveness of such a evaluation. Right. I will go into a presentation where you can right. The balanced scorecard approach. This is the one which we are trying to discuss today. And even with a remote discussion, we should be able to appreciate the factors or the methodology in the balanced scorecard approach. Now, in a basic terminology, as I already told you, the historical performance evaluations mainly based on accounting ratios, financial alone. But the balance scorecard took into account not only financial aspects, but the non-financial aspects also regarding a particular corporate's performance. Right, we will see what is a balance scorecard. Now, in the balance scorecard, the name balance scorecard gives the meaning because it will provide a balanced view. It doesn't have a bias to anything. It doesn't have a bias to financial information alone. It doesn't have a bias to non-financial information. It will provide a balanced view about the institution. So that is the main idea behind the balance scorecard approach. In the balance scorecard approach, there are 4 perspectives, main perspectives. So there also you will find that financial perspective is one of that. So therefore, even though we say that financial alone would not help, but we have not really disregarded the importance of financial aspects that has already been taken. So one perspective is financial perspective in the balance scorecard. The other perspective is the customer perspective. Customer perspective. And then you have to have internal business process. That's another aspect or another perspective. And then the last one is learning and growth perspective. And all these things will be taken into consideration. And you can see the descriptive explanation in another slide. And all these things, all these perspectives will have to be taken in terms of the vision and the strategy of the organization. Now, the organization should have a vision and respective strategies to achieve the vision also should be formulated by the organization. In the light of that only, the balance scorecard approach is possible. If you do not have a vision, if you do not have strategies to achieve that vision, you can't have a balance scorecard approach. But in order to have a balanced scorecard approach, you need to have a set vision and strategies towards achieving the vision. So therefore, in order to have a balanced scorecard, so you need to have vision and the relevant strategies. Now it really talks about strategic planning and management system used to align business activities to the vision. Because the vision is the future level of achievement, and the strategies are the types of activities or types of tactics we are going to fulfill the vision. So then there can be, when strategies are there, there can be goals also, and the performance of the organization has to be evaluated, monitoring against the strategic goals. Now this can be done through the balanced scorecard. We can talk some of the historical things with regard to the balanced scorecard concept. It was first published in 1992 by Kaplan and Norton, and there was a book followed in 1996. Now here it really mentioned about the traditional performance measurement, normally focused on external accounting data. Those are taken as obsolete. New approach is a balanced approach to the financial perspectives. Not only the financial perspective, there are several other perspectives we are talking about. Now these are the basic factors why a balanced scorecard is used. Now we can go one by one and see what is the practical significance of these factors. Improve organizational performance by measuring what matters. So this is a very important thing, because though we measure something, if it doesn't matter with the performance of the organization, or if it doesn't relate to the performance of the organization, that measurement is useless. So therefore, in the balanced scorecard, we always try to have a measurement device which can have a relevance to the performance of the organization, and the measures what we have made really matter. So therefore, the first factor with regard to the using of a balanced scorecard is the measurements, with regard to the measurements, but all those measurements should have a relevance to the organization's performance. And through these measurements, the objective is to improve the organizational performance. Then the second factor is to increase the focus on strategy and results, because every staff member of the organization should have an idea about the strategy of the organization. Then they are the part and parcel of that strategy, the action parts of the strategy. So then they need to have that awareness, and the focus is on the strategy and the results of that strategy. So that is another main factor of why using a balanced scorecard. The third one is the alignment of organization strategy to the workers. Now, this alignment actually, this is also an awareness among the organizational staff, So these people should have the awareness how the things what they do align with the organization's strategy, and it has to be on a day-to-day basis, because every day it has to be done. It is not a quarter end or half year end or year end. So this is the type of a thing which the monitoring has to be done daily. So therefore, the aligning of organization strategy with the workers on a day-to-day basis is another main factor of the balance scorecard. Now, I think by going through the first three factors of the, the rationale for using the balance scorecard will give you the reality of focusing on strategy and results, whatever it is. So then the fourth one is focus on the drivers key to future performance. Now this is a very important thing, because up to the innovative ideas of balanced scorecard approach, all the organizations really follow the accounting ratios which were based on historical performance. And there's no futuristic aspect on that. But in this case, the drivers being identified, which would be key to the future performance. So this is a very important point introduced under the balanced scorecard approach. Then the next one is the improve communication of the organization's vision and strategy. I think you all know what you mean by vision. Vision is a futuristic achievement. I mean, they have not been achieved yet, but they are all striving for achieving that vision. So the strategies has to be formulated ultimately in order to achieve the vision. So that is also important, and everywhere in these factors you will find that it is a matter of aligning the strategies with the results. Then prioritize projects and initiatives. What do you mean by prioritizing? Because there can be several projects in the pipeline, but as per the strategy, as per the vision of the organization, the top managers or the key decision makers should identify what projects to be prioritized. Now, information with regard to these prioritizations could be obtained through the balance scorecard. And not only that, any type of initiatives to be taken as a priority is also been really understood through the balance scorecard information. Now, I think as a whole, the balance scorecard is a real device which will have a futuristic vision or futuristic action plan. And our concern goes to the future, not the past. So how we are going to achieve these things in the future? So that is the most important thing in the balance scorecard. So it's a very proactive type of a performance evaluation. Right, these are the perspectives, and we call them the 4 original business perspectives. As I told you earlier, the financial perspective, then customer perspective, learning and growth perspective, internal business process, perspective. Now, this particular model is really invented by Kaplan and Norton. It is clearly mentioned in their book, Balance Scorecard, and it was in the very recent history, 1996, about say more than 20 years back. So we will see what do we understand through these perspectives. And you can see in the model, the vision and strategy is in the middle. And that vision and strategy will give the perspective to financial, customer, internal business process, and learning and growth. All of the things would be taken into consideration, the vision and strategy. For example, now your financial aspects to be aligned with the vision and strategies. To be aligned. Your internal business process also. Learning and growth market share, customer loyalties, and all sort of things should have a relevance to the vision and strategy. So we will go one by one. See, financial. To succeed financially, how should we appear to our shareholders? So that is the main aspect of financial perspective. Now the shareholders are the people who invested on the company. So therefore, the company has to really work towards give value to the shareholders or add value to the company. So then financially, the company has to look into this and see how they can succeed. And that success has to be perceived by the shareholders. Now you can see the way it is to be measured. We need to have some objectives with regard to the financial perspectives, and then we need to have measurements, and we need to have targets. Not till that, we need to have initiatives also. Now, in financial point of view, you need to know what are the objectives, what are the measurements or measures, what are the targets, and what are the initiatives. So in the same manner, we can now go to the customer perspective. Now, anyone who has any doubt about what I have said, you can just ask questions if you want. Now, do you get a meaning or do you get a sense of the particular concept that I have already delivered? That is the financial perspective. Now, that financial perspective means we need to show the success to our shareholders. The company has to do that because the shareholders really invest their resources, their money into the company. So therefore, we have to show them financially that we are succeeding, the company is succeeding. Then only they realize that they can get value for them. The value addition is there. That is our objective. But in order to see whether the objectives are being achieved, so you need to have some targets and you need to measure. And you have to have different initiatives to achieve this. If you need any, now, if someone has any doubt about what is the meaning of this, so you can ask any question now. The financial perspectives. because you all know now, most of the people are really biased on the financial aspects. So therefore, many organizations know what are the types of achievement they need to have on the financial perspective. So it's like, having profits, having growth, having efficiency, and all sort of things are taken in terms of financials. And value additions, it is not only the profit, we need to say the profitability, the solvency, liquidity, and all sort of things will matter. Right. Now, if we go into the customer perspective, so there it is little different from financial perspectives. To achieve our vision, how should we appear to our customers? So there the perceptions of customers would be important. Now, the vision, we have a vision in the organization. Customers also should identify that the organization is really driving through the vision, driving towards the vision. So that perception should be with the customers. If that is the case, then we can say we are successful in that vision achievement. How should we appear to our customers? So then we have to be customer friendly. We have to be, there should be customer loyalty, and we need to have a market share, and all sort of things will come over there. And say, there also you have the objectives, you need to have measures. I can give some examples of measurements of customer loyalty. So those measures come as market share, customer loyalty measures, customer satisfaction measures, all sort of things will come over there. And you can have some targets on that. Right. Now we have talked about financial, customer, then learning and growth. So to achieve our vision, how will we sustain our ability to change and improve? Now this process is not a process where you have to do and just stop. It is an ongoing process of changing and improving. The change should not be the worse, it should be for better. So this has to be a continuous process. So learning and growth is that. So you have to learn. And you have to learn and unlearn, not only learning, you have to unlearn also. Sometimes you think that your idea is correct and you have the correct concepts, but later on you realize that it is not correct. So then you have to abandon that type of a concept. You have to have new concepts. That is what you mean by innovation. So there also you need to have objectives, then measures and targets, and then innovations or initiatives. So if you take in terms of internal business process, now there you have to satisfy not only your shareholders, your customers, and all others, even the employees. Then we can say the stakeholders. How we have to excel in our process. So that is the next thing. So that is the internal business process. I think you now got a simple explanation about the original business perspectives. Now everything, whatever the perspective we are talking about, it should have a relevance, or it should have a relevance to the vision and strategy. Right, now in this slide, it is clearly given. The questions are in the business perspective. So in each business perspectives, what questions we need to ask. In financial perspective, what is the question we ask? What must we do to create sustainable economic value? What must we do to create sustainable economic value? Now this is a very, I say, this is not a straightforward type of a thing. This little complicated statement. Now you can just read it. Create sustainable economic value. Do you think it is profits? No. It is not only profits. The word profits could not give any type of a sense. When you want to have a sustainable economic value, profitability is only one part. Then you need to have solvency, liquidity, and every sort of things would be there. So in order to have sustainable economic value, we need to maintain profitability, maintain liquidity, maintain solvency. These are the financial perspectives. Then we go to the internal business process. To satisfy our stakeholders, what must be our levels of productivity, efficiency, and quality? Now, if you really think about this, the productivity and efficiency are very much important in our processes. If our processes are not really generating productivity and efficiency, then those processes are not successful. If we follow successful internal business processes, that means you can generate productivity, you can have productivity, you can have efficiency, and your productions and your products are very high quality products. So this is the satisfaction which the stakeholders would get through the internal business process. So then the question of internal business process perspective is, how are we going to satisfy our stakeholders, and what must be our levels of productivity, efficiency, and quality? The question here is, all members should get to know that the level of efficiency the stakeholders expect, the level of productivity the stakeholders expect, the level of quality the stakeholders expect. So that is how the questions to be answered. So therefore, it is a matter of concern to understand what is the level of productivity the stakeholders expect, what is the level of efficiency the stakeholders expect, what is the level of quality the stakeholders expect. So those are the things which you need to understand and which you need to answer under the internal business process perspective. When we go into learning and growth perspective, how does our employee performance management system, including feedback to employees, support high performance? Now, these are very, very important part. I think this perspective is very much dealing with the HR aspects, human resource aspects, because it's performance, employee performance. That is why I put it as human resource management, employee performance, or performance evaluation of employees. And feedback. Employees should get a feedback. And through the feedback, they will be in a position to enhance their performance standards. This is basically taken as learning and growth, but it is a more broad aspect. But for the time being, we can just understand it as a human relations aspect, more or less. But there can be several other aspects including here, but most of the parts you can assign to the HR, employee relations, performance management, and all. And the main idea is to give incentives for high performance. And this high performance will lead the organization to a higher levels of quality our higher levels of cost leadership and all that. Then we go into the customer perspective. The question asked is, what do our customers require from us and how are we doing according to those requirements? So that means customers will have their own requirements. Whether we are really catering to those requirements, that is our question. If one can say that we are not really catering to our customer needs, then we are not there. And we have to see the gaps and we have to see how we can bridge those gaps. So that is how, and in order to do that, we need to have everyday monitoring, online monitoring, and real-time monitoring we need to have. So that is why the balanced scorecard approach is a very important and very efficient approach. Anything you need to clarify on this? Yes. Do you need to just give any type of comments on this? Because what I want to tell you is this is generically in general we can say several things, but our skill is to see how we can apply into our organization or our department or whatever. So that is what we need. Then we can really use it practically. Anything you need to clarify here? Otherwise, I can really continue with the presentation. What I feel is just telling these things on presentations and all, I really feel that I don't get any feedback or whatever. So therefore, I'm just looking for a feedback. Anything you need to, I think you can comment on this. And you can actively participate in the session. And it will be very much beneficial for you. Now, when I say the vision and the strategy, that is very important here. Because if you don't have a vision, if you don't have strategies, then it is very difficult for you to just look at the objectives of the financial perspective, objectives of customers, objectives of internal business process, objectives of learning and growth process. So therefore, the strategy and vision is very much important. There's a paramount importance for these things. So I think you could have asked that question even, because if any organization, if you don't have a vision and if you don't have strategies, then there's no use of balanced scorecard. Right. Anything if you know, yeah, right. I will continue with the presentation now. Right. Now you will, next slide, you will get a clear explanation on different type of measurements. Now you go into the perspective, the financial perspective, there you have, why we say generic measurements. Generic means it can be used for any type of a company in general. But the problem here is your skill is, what is the skill here? The skill is you need to identify the appropriate ratios, appropriate measures to get an understanding or get an idea about the financial perspective. Now here I have given some generic measurements. Return of capital employed. So that is one type of a generic measurement, or in other words, we call it ROE, return on capital. ROCE, sometimes it is taken as ROCE. Economic value added, EVA, sales growth, cash flow, and all sort of things can be taken as generic measurements of financial perspectives. I think it is rather simple, but it is not that simple to identify the financial ratios for your organization, and it's an organization dependent matter. So then you need to have an idea about your organization's strategy, vision, and all that to identify the measurements on financial perspectives. Then when you go to customer perspective, now what are the measurements? If you measure customer satisfaction, that can be taken as a measurement. Customer satisfaction. I think, I don't know, this cannot be, it is very difficult for you to quantify customer satisfaction. But there are different ways of doing it. You have attitude test and that type of things. So there you have some questionnaire formats where you can measure customer satisfaction. Then customer retention. How you retention, so that is what you call the loyalty, customer loyalty. And all of these things, you could say that all are very qualitative type of things. But we need to attribute some quantitative mechanics for these things to measure the customer satisfaction, to measure the customer loyalty, and how are we going to acquire customers, then the profitability of each customer, and market share. So these are the types of generic measures you can employ in your wellness scorecard. But that doesn't mean any organization should have these generic measurements for their customer perspective measurements. But they can devise their own measure for these customer perspective measurements. So this is the real skill a person has to develop. Because you can obtain this type of slides or this type of papers from anywhere, from the internet, from the Google, everywhere you can find this type of things. But the matter comes, how are we going to make use of these things according to your organization needs? If you can do that, that is a skill. That is a type of innovation. So therefore, we really strive for that. The knowledge alone will not help. You need to understand, you need to learn how you can apply the knowledge. And through the applications, you have to be very practical. Right. I want to tell you the real meaning of why. What do you mean by generic measurements? Generic means everywhere you find them. Any organization you can use it, but for your organization, you have to select the appropriate measurements. And in the internal business process, what are the generic measurements? And the value chain. Value chain means now you have a manufacturing process. If you have a manufacturing process, even service manufacturing process, you have a value chain. You need to have in the value chain, there's operation, measuring of quality, cycle times, all of these things are there. And I think you know that what you mean by work in progress and all that, raw materials, finished goods, and all sort of things are coming in the value chain. You have supplies, you have then finished products and all sort of things that will come in the value chain. Because in each place, you will get a value addition. up to the finished product. Now this measurement has to be employed along the internal value chain. Now, innovation. In innovations, the internal business process has to be developed through measures. Now, if customer needs to be identified, or if customer needs are identified by the company, so then the degree of this identification has to be measured. How well the company identifies the customer's future needs. So then we need to have a measure to check whether the company is very much efficient, very much effective in that. And if you see that the company is not able to measure or identify the customer's future needs, so that's a defect of the company. So then we need to have a measure to see that to what extent the company is identifying the customer's future needs. In operations, under operations, there will be measures of quality, cycle time and cost. Those are the operation-wise measures. Quality measures, cycle time, so we can say product become a finished good. Now there will be a cycle time for that. Then post-sale services, measures for warranty, repair and treatment of defects and returns. So these are the types where the measurement has to be given. So I will at the end of this presentation, I will provide you a sample balance scorecard. So then you can get a better idea about these balance scorecards through the samples. But even though a sample is given, I don't think that you will get the whole of it. But if you want to get the whole of it, you need to do it yourself. So then we can just see the learning and growth perspective. Now it really needs these measurements, people, employee retention, training skills, morale and all that has to be measured. Then measure of availability of critical real-time information needed for frontline employees. Availability, because frontline employees should have some types of information. The availability of that information is very much important for the business. So then there should be a measure to see whether how this information is available for employees. Right. Now you have seen the initiation of measurements for each perspective. Now with the starting from financial perspective, there you have the normal financial measures, so financial ratios as such. Then in the customer perspective, you have customer satisfaction, market share, loyalty, profitability, and also such factors. Under internal process, business process, you have the identification of future needs, how well the company is doing that, and how the company is measuring quality, cycle time and cost, and how the company is doing post-sale services. There should be measurement for that. That is what you mean by internal business process perspective measurements. Learning and growth, you have the measurements for employee retention, training. I think you have heard about this turnover, employee turnover, a measure called employee turnover. So that means how many people leave the organization prematurely before retirement or in a short period of time. So this is another factor a company or organization should look into. Because if the turnover ratio is very high, the meaning is the employees you can't retain employees. So if you can't retain employees, the meaning is you don't have a trained workforce, because the people are very much they lack skills, because they are not in a position to accumulate their skills, because their time or their term of employment, so they don't have enough time to do practice. They don't have enough time to develop their skills, and they leave the organization in shorter period of time. So if this is the case, then the company will lose the skill of the employees, and then it is very much difficult for them to achieve their visions and achieving the strategic goals. So therefore, you need to measure that, whether you are retaining employees, whether the skills are being really enhanced, and there are systems available to see whether these things are measured. Now we will see what are the success factors of balanced scorecard. Or in other words, what are the critical things which we have to do in order to successful in balanced scorecard approach. That is what you mean by key implementation success factors. In order to implement balanced scorecard, to expect success from that implementation, these factors we need to get in. The first and the foremost is obtaining executive sponsorship and commitment. Obtaining executive sponsorship and commitment. The top executives should have a sponsorship, means now all of them should have a regard, and they should have the ownership for these things, and they should have a proper commitment. That is very much critical for the success of this balanced scorecard approach. Then we go to the next point. Involve in a broad base of leaders, managers and employees in scorecard development. Now, this is a type of a project, and all the people in the organization should get together. So, what do you mean by broad-based leaders? Now, those leaders or those people should come from various departments, not only the HR people. From each and every department, it should be represented. That is what you mean by broad-based. Not only leaders, managers, employees. Now, all the people all over the organization should get together and they should engage in the scorecard development process. Now, what is the third one? That's very interesting type of thing. Choose the right scorecard champion. So what do you mean? Because you can really find people who are very much knowledgeable about the approach. So those people are regarded as champions, and those people can lead opinions among the other people. That is why choosing the right scorecard champion is very much important. And there should be interactive communication also in the process of balanced scorecard development approach. And we need to, all the company employees should look at the scorecard as a long-term journey, not a short-term project type of thing. It's a long-term type of a journey, and it's a what you say, it's a lifestyle type of a thing. I don't know whether you have just heard about this type of thing. It's a lifestyle, because throughout your life you need to be there. Throughout, if you are, as far as you are in the organization, you have to be with the scorecard. That is why we call it a long-term journey. It will not be finished during 1 year or 2 years. It is forever there, long-term journey. If you feel that outside help is necessary, you have to get outside help. Right. Now this is a little anyway, I will just put it yes. Now it is for your interest. You should understand this example. Now you can see the vertical columns here. The left column, right on the left, I mean the first column, it really talks about strategy map. Now you just see process manufacturing excellence. So the strategy map is now, say, under the process, what is your strategy? You have to achieve manufacturing excellence. So there's a theme also. Return on capital employed, it should be higher than a certain percentage. Volume at a certain volume. So these are the types of targets. So the objectives. What are the objectives of this manufacturing excellence? Now, our strategy is achieving manufacturing excellence. So what are the then objectives to be taken into consideration? Because in the journey to achieve the manufacturing excellence, we need to get these objectives first: operating cost and efficiency, capacity utilization, capability utilization, and brand image. Now these are the things towards manufacturing excellence we need to achieve. I mean, think about it and see whether the things are giving sense. Yes, anything if you need to clarify, you can ask the question. Now I am just now telling you, at the beginning I told you all the perspectives are taken in terms of the vision and strategy. That is why in the example also, we have taken some inputs from the strategy to the balance scorecard. Now you just see the financial perspective also has a connection with the strategy. Now, one part of the strategy is achieving manufacturing excellence. So financial perspective, then you can say long-term shareholder value, ROC. ROC has to be higher than a certain amount. So there, what is the action plan? Improve productivity, grow revenue. So productivity improved, revenue is grown. That is the case. In order to do that, I mean, when doing that, you will achieve the shareholder value. So that is ROC will be higher than a certain value. And it is the achievement type. But in order to achieve that, you have to really get into these objectives. You have to have a lowest operating cost and efficiency. And you have to utilize the capacity to a higher extent. Capacity utilization means now you have some resources, you have to utilize all the resources. Then capability utilization. Now capabilities are coming with the employee skills. You need to, I mean, utilize all the skills which the employees have towards the manufacturing excellence. Now, if you do that, you will have a high level brand image, because with the manufacturing excellence, the products will be really accepted by the customers and there will be a very, very high brand image, because the customers appreciate the quality of the products, cost even, the pricing, and it can be very competitive in the market. So then the brand image is very much higher. Right, now you can just see. Now the strategy type is given in the first column. The second column is balance scorecard. There you have a measurement. Cost per unit and efficiency. That's a measurement. And capacity utilization is what is the percentage of utilization. Then capability utilization, trial products, spare parts products and all that, capability utilization. Then brand image. There's no just relevance, but you can just see the balance scorecard measurements with regard to the financial perspectives. An action plan is monthly monitoring, weekly monitoring, likewise. Now you can just see the measurements and how are you going to monitor them. And if you go to the customer perspective, now customer perspective is all the customers would like to have the products at a low cost, low price with the high quality. That is any customer's dream, no? Low price and high quality products. So in order to do that, the production cost has to be minimized. And your service, your products should be very quality. So that is the customer perspective. And through the low cost, you can have not only through cost, the brand and quality levels, you can satisfy the customers. Now you can just see the objectives or the actions. You should strive for low cost manufacturing. You should strive for world-class quality standards. You have to go for world-class delivery timings. And knowledgeable and skilled partners. High customer satisfaction. Reinforce brand image. Now in the measurement part, you can say man hour per unit, defect per unit, sales delivery, direct pass rate, market feedback, sales volume. These are the measurements. Now those are monitored. That is the action plan. Right, now these are the two perspectives we really discussed now. Financial perspectives, then the customer perspective, then we go to the internal perspective. Ensure operational excellence with innovation as well-being, socially responsible. And now social responsible means now environmentally friendly and all that. Those things also should be there. Alliances with strategic business units. Process innovation, social responsibility. Now process innovation is, it is a continuous type of a thing where a company has to achieve, because every day you need to see how you can have a better process. There also you have the measures, the productivity you need to measure, delivery you need to measure, continuous improvement measures, NPIs, that is new production indicators, performance indicators, safety and health, environment. Then the learning and the last one, learning and growth perspective, strategic job and systems, skills and information systems, developing the necessary skills, information availability, strategic awareness and all that. There you have the, as actions you should need to have research and development and activities, alignment of strategy. And you can see the actions, training and skill build up, setup, test and validation, communication program. Now I think you might get a rather satisfactory level of awareness with regard to the balanced scorecard example. How the strategy can be mapped into this. I think if you can go into a case study of a balanced scorecard, so you can do it yourself, and it's a type of practical experience you might get. Now, anything you need to clarify here?
So what's this budget in the under action plan?
Budget, yeah.
OPEX and column.
I can't hear you. Just say it loud.
Under action plan column, what is the
Under
budget?
what? Yeah.
Action plan. Action plan.
Action plan. All right. Yeah. That is in the internal perspective, or?
No, this operation OPEX and CAPEX.
OPEX and CAPEX. Yes. Yeah. So there, I think the matter here is when you do this monitoring, we have to just monitor it against the budget. Now, the budget in the sense, the budget should really go into the operational expenses. There should be budget for operational expenses, raw material expenses and all, capital expenditure also. So therefore, in order to get these targets, these budgets are important. Is that clear? Now, when you go into the budget only, you have to get an idea about the target. For example, say the production, there will be a production expenses, and you can expend only say 100 million. So therefore, you need to see how the cost can be reduced to that level, and there should be a target for that. So that is, the targets are really established by going through the budget. That is the budget, that is the necessity of a budget. So action plan, when the action plan is devised, budget is the basic document. Is that clear?
Yeah, clear.
Now, what I need to emphasize here is the last part of it, the learning and growth perspective. There are strategic job ban systems. Now, strategic job ban systems means now employees are there, and not only that, the employees will have to apply some systems also. For example, information systems. There should be a skill profile for that. Jobs are being really given strategically. So that that has to be done through the skills of the employees. Even the application of information systems also, it's a skill. So these two things will have a proper, should have a proper constitution. Now you can just see, here you get the develop the necessary skills, information systems availability and all that. Strategy awareness, all sort of things will come over there. Now here you see, develop the necessary skills, information systems availability, strategic awareness. Now here you say research and development also coming under learning and growth, because I think you all know many corporate organizations have their own research and development units or development departments, and their duty is to see every day what are the types of innovations they can really apply in their day-to-day production process, customer customer acquisition and all. So they do this research every day, and that is coming under learning and growth perspective. So therefore, in order to do a measurement, you need to see how these R&D developments and all that been done. Now, training and skill build up, set up, test and validation. Now all these things are coming under measurement devices. Right. Now this gives a comprehensive view on the balance scorecard example. Anything you need to clarify on this? Right. Then you go to the balance scorecard strategy map. Now you can just see the strategy map. You map the strategies to different perspectives. Or just see the financial perspective. What is the foremost objective here? Financial perspective, improve shareholder value. This is the foremost objective. That is what we are going to do. For shareholders, we try to improve the value. Then the company shares will go up. The value or the price of a company share will go up. Now, how are we going to achieve that shareholder value? Revenue growth strategy, productivity strategy, So revenue growth is in one part it comes, and other part you get the productivity strategy. So in order to have a revenue growth strategy, you need to have build franchise, increase customer value. So customer value means uh, valuable customers. You acquire valuable customers. What do you mean by franchise building? Franchise means it's the customer loyalty, or new customers, getting new customers into the board. Then it will be new revenue sources. Then increase customer value means we will enhance the customer profitability. So through that you will be in a position to grow your revenue. Then in the production part, improve cost structure. So cost per unit can be reduced. Improve asset utilization. So it will get a very high productivity. Now you just see the how it comes here. Customer acquisition. Through the customer acquisition, what will happen? You will have a new revenue source. Through the customer retention, you will have a customer profitability. So then you can have the product leadership, customer intimacy, and all that. That is, in order to get the customer value perspective, you can just see all these things. Now, I think this is a good explanation on how the strategy can be mapped here. Now you can see the actions what we need to achieve by going through this. Now you can see internal perspectives, build the franchise. There you have innovation of processes, increase customer value, customer management processes, achieve operational excellence, operational processes, be a good corporate decision, environmental processes. Now these things, now all these things can be taken as the part of strategies. Franchise building, customer value increasing, achieve operational excellence, all these things come in under that. Learning and growth perspective, a motivated and prepared workforce. So you need to have technologies which are strategically important. You need to have competencies which are strategically important. So what do you mean by this strategical importance? Strategical importance means now you are not doing business alone. You do business among your competitors. So strategic competencies means you can have a strategic advantage to the competencies you have, because you are competent to those things. So then we can have a competitive edge to those type of strategies. That is why those are called strategic competencies, because you need to compete. You can compete with other organizations with the strategic competencies. And if you have strategic technologies also, you will be in a position to derive a competitive edge through that. And with all that, you will develop a climate for action. And for that, you need to have a motivated and prepared workforce. Now, this is a department level scorecard example. Now you can just look at it. How do we look to management? Now there should be a business value, there will be goals and measures. What must we excel at? Under the internal process, you need to look at, are we working efficiently? Future readiness, how can we continue to improve and create value? User orientation, are we satisfying user needs? User means the customers. What can we do to meet the future needs of users? Now, this is a type of a network. Now you can see it may just showed internal efficiency plus customer satisfaction is equal to service success. Now, just only customer satisfaction will not do. You need to have customer satisfaction and the internal efficiency as well. Not only customer satisfaction, not only internal efficiency. It is a service success. Now, I am not going to explain this, but this is for yourself, and you can just go through it and see what really they try to tell. And it really gives some idea about the scorecard potential pitfalls and criticisms. Now, anything, if you, even though you really say good about the scorecards, there can be pitfalls also. For anything, you can see the pros and cons would be there. So therefore, I mean, this is for your knowledge, your awareness. You just go through it and get an idea what it is. I am not going to explain it because it's a type of a cartoon. That cartoon gives a certain idea. Now these are given. The cartoon is even though the cartoon is there, the scorecard potential pitfalls and criticisms are given here. Lack of a well-defined strategy. Now, say, as I told you earlier, I told that if there's no strategy, clear strategy and clear vision, the balanced scorecard is nowhere. You can't do anything with the balanced scorecard. Lack of well-defined strategy. Now, balanced scorecard really relies on a well-defined strategy. And there should be understanding of linkages between strategic objections and metrics. If you don't have this foundation, balanced scorecard would not do anything. And it really focuses on lagging measures. So rather than leading measures, you go for lagging measures. That's another disadvantage. And if you just copy metrics from another firm, that is also another disadvantage of this balanced scorecard. So you need to have people who can identify the appropriate metrics for your organization. That doesn't mean that everywhere you just apply the same types of metrics in the organization. So those are called generic metrics, but you should not go for generic metrics. You should go for your own metrics. But there are some metrics which we cannot really say we need to have non-generic type of metrics, but But in some cases, you can have your own metrics. Then there's another case here. Self-serving managers means now some managers are there. Their goal is to achieve results in order to have rewards. So this is a big issue in an organization. Now, their main desire for results coming through the desire for rewards. It is not that they strive for excellence, but the self-serving managers, they have the desire for the rewards and they go for these results. Results is a mere achievement in order to get the rewards. But that doesn't mean now, sometimes if this is the case, what happens is people try to give manipulated type of results rather than achieving real results. So that will be an issue for an organization. I have seen in very famous organizations, it happened. And people were found fault with. Now, all these pitfalls would be there in a balanced scorecard approach. And these are the benefits. I think you can give several benefits here. Helps align key performance measures with strategy at all levels of an organization. I think that is what I have really conveyed to you during the session today. It helps align key performance measures with strategy at all levels of an organization. Then the methodology facilitates communication and understanding of business goals and strategies at all levels. Now, there are also, when you talk in terms of strategies, and it should be understood and it should be really communicated all over the organization. And initiatives that follow best practices, entire organization will experience these things. Organization mission statement and strategic plan from a passive document into the marching orders. Now, anywhere in the world, for any organization, in most of the organizations, you get a well-designed vision and a mission. Very, very beautiful and very, very attractive type of visions and missions are there in organizations. But it is just a document, just a passive document. But when you have a vision and strategies aligned with the scorecard, then it will become a document with marching orders for the organization on a daily basis. That means there will be an action plan. An action plan is being given to different people in the organization, and they will do their own actions to achieve the strategic goals. It enables executives to truly execute their strategies by identifying what should be done and measured. And it gives you a particular sketch or schedule of what you need to do. And how are we going to monitor, and all sort of things will be there, and on just a page, on one page. So this is the very important type of information. You all know the Fortune 500 companies in the world. 60% of these Fortune 500 companies using the balanced scorecard. Right. Now, after giving these details, I don't know, you might got some understanding. Anyway, what can we do for this? Anything you need to clarify on this? I like to get your feedbacks. Now, anything which you need to clarify? Now, I will ask you some questions now in order to see whether you have really got what I have delivered. So, how many main perspectives are in the business balance scorecard? And name it. You can just chat it under the, I mean, through the chat, you can give your answers. What are the 4 perspectives on which the balance scorecard is prepared? Yes, Ramesh. Financial, then we call it financial perspective, and then there will be another 3. Customer, yes. There are another 2. Learning and growth, yes. Internal business process. Right, good. I think 3-4 persons get together and given it. So that's I'm happy that you really participate actively in this. I'm asking another question now. Say how these perspectives are really uh, connected with the strategy and vision. Or I can just change the question. Right. Now, in order to have a balanced scorecard approach very successful, what is the important aspect you should look into? Most important aspect to have a balanced scorecard approach very successful. What is the requirement, real requirement? If you don't have that, balanced scorecard is just a useless thing. To have a successful balanced scorecard process, yes, you need to have a strategy, yes. not a strategy map, that's good, but anyway, you can just put it this way. There are several things, but if the basic thing is to have a strategy and vision, well designed, well thought out vision and strategy should be there. So if you don't have a well-defined strategy, well-defined vision, balanced scorecard would not be a successful thing. Right, good. Now, what I need to tell you is, while I am happy with your prompt responses, I think practical usage of this would be the most important thing. I feel that you might get it correct, or you will be in a position to make use of this approach in your organizations. But I don't know, some of the organizations, they use it, even the banks. Even the banks are using it. So therefore, you should be in a position to just visualize the things with the organization and see how your organization apply these things into their day-to-day activities. Right. Now, with that, I will try to give you another specimen balance scorecard, and that will give you a more realistic view of the balance scorecard, and you get a good idea about how it can be done. Now you can just look at the financial perspective here. Now, maximize returns, that is one objective coming under the financial perspective. Then profitable growth, that's another objective coming under financial perspective. Leverage asset base, so in other words, it is an utilization target. And manage operating cost. These are the objectives coming under financial. Now the respective measures are also given. Now you can see maximize returns, it is ROC, return on capital employed. And profitable growth, it is measured through the revenue growth. And leverage asset base is the objective, and it is been measured through asset utilization rate. Because you are not going to keep unutilized assets or obsolete level assets. In managing operating cost per customer, and it's a measurement. Now you will see the targets in financial terms or quantitative terms. ROCE is financial year number 1, number 2, and number 3. Now there are 3 years. Targets have been enhancing for each year. Now their target for the financial year number 1 is 14%, whereas For number 2, it is 14.5. Number 3, 15. Revenue growth, the target is first year it is the target is 60% revenue growth. The second year the target is 8%. The third year it is 12%. Now you see the increase. Now for between 1 and 2, increase of 4%, 2%. Between 2 and 3, increase of 4%. Then asset utilization rate, 80% utilization is in the year 1, 85% utilization in the year 2, 90% utilization in the year 3. And you can see the unit customer cost. In the year 1, it is 150. Now it has been reduced to 140 next year. And the third year, it has been further reduced to 125. Now you just look at it and see the things are been happening, like initiatives. You have to say initiatives means to achieve this this thing, what are the things which you are going to do? So that is what you mean by initiatives. In a summary form, you need to do that, right? So this is a particular exercise you need to do. So what you need to do is you need to just give a summary here. You get this into your a certain say piece of paper, and in that paper you write these things. Write these things, and anyway, it is an exercise. I will see the possibility of giving some marks for that. You can put the initiatives as you think. So in other words, to achieve these maximize returns, profitable growth and all, then you need to give the types of initiatives you suggest for doing that. Now here, for some things they have done the initiatives, given the initiatives. For example, the customer industry leading customer loyalty. So customer satisfaction rating measure. So that rating is 80% the target. Second year it is 85%, and 90% is the third year's target. There would be a customer loyalty program. That is the initiative. Now you can I can go to the next internal process aspects also. Now under the internal process, it has been given 4 parts. Business growth is one part. Continued public support is the other part. Customer service excellence is another part. Optimize core business. Now these are the things which they try to achieve through the internal processes or the objectives. Under the internal business process, they have objectives, the main objectives of business growth, continued public support, customer service excellence, and optimizing core business. Now, I think this is a rather important aspect, and they have had sub objectives given for each of these objectives. These are the main objectives. The business growth is the one main objective coming under internal process. Continued public support is another main objective. Customer service excellence is another objective. And optimizing core business is another objective. All these objectives being given another sub-objectives under the business growth. capitalize on deregulation opportunities, optimizing trading opportunities, developing innovative services, use alliances and joint ventures, leverage cross-group R&D, cross-group R&D. All these are internal processes. Right. If you go through it again, business growth, under business growth, you have capitalizing on deregulation opportunities. Now, that's a type, we call it regulation arbitrage. Optimizing trading opportunities, develop innovative services, use alliances and joint ventures, leveraging cross-group R&D. Cross-group means now in a group you have several companies. For each, you need to have all the groups together. You have R&Ds, and you can leverage this R&D. Or R&D in one group can be one company can be leveraged for another company. Now the measurements: percentage revenue from deregulated products, percentage trading revenue, revenue from new services, percentage customer service through alliances. So these are the measurement devices. Now I think you get a good idea when you go through this, and I will give you a time to read this, and if you have any confusion, let me know by going through it. And just look at the format. You have the perspectives, you have the objectives, you have the measures and targets and initiatives. Now, what you can do is, for further clarification, you can relate this with there's a slide which I gave you in the other presentation. Say, in this presentation, you get this one. So what you can do is you just connect or just relate these things into the sample balance scorecard. By doing that, you will get a better understanding. And you just, if you want to go through it, and just go through it and let me know what are the confusions or any confusion arising from the particular schedule. And what you can do is to have a practical usage, you can have an hypothetical organization or your organization into your mind, and then just look at these. You can have your own objectives in here and see how you can devise this type of balance scorecard. I think surely you can go through this schedule and understand the features applied there. And it's very, very important. For example, now you can just look at the internal process and the last one, optimize core business. The objectives would be optimizing asset utilization and maximum return on resource allocation, continued cost management, enterprise-wide risk management. Now, all these things will add value to the internal process. And you can just see the measurement devices also. Optimizing asset utilization, the percentage rate capacity attained. Then maximum return on resource allocations, employees productivity improvement, percentage cost reduction and all. So all these things are very, given a sense, all are very sensible type of things where you can really appreciate the practical significance of these things. Right. With that, I just stop for the tea break. Another, say, I will start by 3:45. Right. So till that time, you can have a break now, and in the meantime, you can just have a better look onto this balance scorecard schedule. Right. We'll come back to the session. Right. Before going into the next presentation, I want to just get your feedback. Yes. Right now, in order to just have an idea, I think the best way is to just get the actual type of balance scorecard and see how it is really maintained. We will come back to the session. The next presentation will be the performance evaluation through financial statements. There we have to discuss in terms of horizontal and vertical analysis, ratio analysis, and that type of things. These clearly are financial, but we need to see how we can do the financial analysis and how we can apply or how we can incorporate these things into the balance scorecard. But before going into that, we need to get a better understanding about these things. Right. Financial statement analysis. This is a part of the performance analysis, but we have to have a basic idea about financial parameters with regard to the performance. And even we have a financial perspective in the balance scorecard. So therefore, we need to clarify these things in a better way. Now, in the statement analysis, you have factors of say about 5 factors: basics of financial statement analysis, then horizontal and vertical analysis, ratio analysis, then earning power and irregular terms items, quality of earnings. Now, these things will have uh, an impact on the financial parameters. But even though these things have a impact, the financial parameters basically taken through the financial statements. Now, when you go into the basics, you have to have a comparative analysis, and there should be certain tools for this analysis. And in the horizontal and vertical analysis basis, you have to go through the balance sheet, income statement, and retained earnings statement. In most cases, we should go through the cash flow statement also. But when you talk in terms of ratio analysis, in the ratio analysis, usually we analyze the liquidity ratios, profitability ratios, solvency ratios, and summary of certain type of ratios. And you can incorporate these things into a balance scorecard position also onto the financial perspective. And there are some qualitative factors here: earning power and the irregular terms items. Now, sometimes you discontinue some operations during the year. Extraordinary items can be there, changes in accounting principles. So that also to be taken into consideration. And in the quality of earnings, there can be alternative accounting methods or improper recognition. Those things also to be taken into consideration. And you all know in financial statements also, you have notes to give you certain exceptions with regard to the accounts, or certain additional information with regard to the accounts been given in notes. Now, when the analysis is started, there are different characteristics we want to analyze. Basically, the analysis done with regard to the liquidity, profitability, and solvency. I think one has to demarcate the difference between liquidity and solvency. Liquidity is the short-term type of a thing. Solvency in the long-term ability of organization to meet with the obligations. Liquidity is the short-term obligations. There is the difference. The profitability, those are the types of characteristics: liquidity, profitability, and solvency. Then in the comparisons, you can do intra-company type of comparisons. What do you mean by intra-company? In the company, you can have 2-3 years. You can compare year 1 with year 2, year 2 with year 3, and all that. That's an intra-company comparison. Then you can do industry averages. You can compare the ratios with industry averages, or you can compare it with a peer company. So such comparisons are called intercompany comparisons. And the analysis basically being done as horizontal analysis or vertical analysis or ratio analysis. Most of the time, this horizontal analysis is also known as trend analysis. It's a technique for evaluating a series of financial statement data over a period of time. The purpose is to determine the increase or decrease that has taken place. Now, this is applied to the balance sheet, income statement, retained earnings, and all that. Now, the real purpose of having this type of presentation is to just brush up the knowledge with regard to the financial analysis, because this financial analysis is taken place with regard to the balance scorecard. Now, in addition to this, there can be non-financial things also coming into the balance scorecard. But in this financial analysis, you need to understand the basis of horizontal analysis and vertical analysis. Now you can just look at a model balance sheet with regard to a certain company called Quality Department Store Incorporated. This is the condensed balance sheet for the year ended 31st December 2007. Now you can just see the way it can be done. In 2007, and there are figures given on account of 2007 and 2006. Now, if you take the current assets, you can see it is 945,000 in the year 2006, and it has gone up to 1,020,000 in 2007. So the difference or the increase is $75,000, and as a percentage, it is 7.9% increase. Current assets been increased by 7.9% in 2007 as against 2006. That is what it means. If you go to the second item, there is plant assets net. It has gone up by 26.5% as against 2006. But in the intangible assets, you can see a drop. Now, this is a simple task where you can apply the growth percentages and growth levels or decline levels comparing 2 years. And this is a horizontal analysis. Now you can just see the stockholders' equity also been increased by 15% in year 2007 as against year 2006. Even stockholders' equity been increased by 26.2%. All these are coming under horizontal analysis. Now, this can be done with regard to the income statement also. You can see the increase of sales, 12% sales increase, the same 2-year comparison. And you can see the net income increase of 55,300. That's a 26.5% increase. So you can see how these quality departments have been profitable in the 2 years, and it's a favorable type of a trend which is appearing. Expenses been reduced and income been increased. And if you go into the retained earnings also, you can see retained earnings been increased by 38.6%. So when the retained earnings increased in such a manner, that means their capital being increased. So that's that has given very much high growth prospects for the organization. And there's a small exercise here. You can do that because in order to really activate yourself, just do it and give me the answer. So you have to have the horizontal analysis of assets, comparing the asset levels with 2010 and now the 2011. What is the increase or decrease or whatever? So you can just do the calculations and see what it is. So give me the answers. Simple question. Now you need to calculate the increase in amount and percentage also. Yes. Now, what we need to do is we need to just see the increase of assets in 2011 as against 2010. Yes. Now, can you just tell me the increase of current assets? Increase of, yes, 30%, correct? And you have to give the amount of increase also. Yes, correct. And there are 3 items you have to calculate. Other one is 80,000. Yes, 336,000 is the increase, correct? Then altogether you have to have the total assets increase. $390. That is the increase, correct? 390 divided by 600,000. Can you check? Yeah, 65 is the correct answer. Yes. Good. Now I think these things are very simple exercises. For the benefit of yourselves only, I just ask you to do that because I want to keep you in an active mode. Anyway, we can go to the next things and see whether how we can do it. Yes. Right. I think you can just fill these blanks with your answers. Now we go into the vertical analysis. We call it common size analysis. It's a technique that expresses each financial statement item as a percent of a base amount. Now you can have a base amount decided looking at the financial statement. We can see. Now in this particular one, call it department store. Go to the balance sheet. There you have total assets as 1,835 in the year 2007. Now, when you do that, this is done vertically. In the year 2007, current assets contributed 55.6% of total assets. Plant assets contributed 43.6% of total assets. Intangible assets contributed 0.8% of total assets. Now, when you look at the year 2006, the composition of asset base is changed. Now you can see current assets constituted 59.2% of total assets in the year 2006, but it has come down to 55.6 in the year 2007. Plant assets contributed 39.7% in the total assets. It has gone up to 43.6 in the year 2007. Now that can be done. I mean, you can see the contribution part of it and whether it has been increased or decreased. So the mix can be looked at. Even in the liability side, you can see current liabilities, it was 19% earlier. Now, they are the percentage. The base figure would be total liabilities and stockholders' equity. So in other words, it is total assets. So if you take the total liabilities and stockholders' equity as a part of that 45.3% is liabilities, 54.7% is assets, equity, sorry. Yeah, equity. So you can just see that. Now you can see in the year 2007, equity contribution in the total assets and total equity and liabilities part been increased from 49.8 to 54.7. Now I think by looking at this, you can understand the real basis of this, because when you look at the figures, 100, if you contributed 100 to something, so that means it's the total. So that is a base figure. 100 is the base figure here. So out of that base figure, you can have different percentages. Then you go to the income statement. There also you can have such type of a contribution. Now you can see net sales is taken as the base figure here. Now you can get all other things as a percentage of net sales. And increase or decrease from the earlier year, you can give into these figures, the percentages. Now you can see other expenses and losses, interest expenses. It is 1.7% only in the 2007, whereas in 2006 it is 2.2. So the contribution of interest expense has been gone down. Now, in a vertical analysis, we can compare two different companies. So how we can do that? Because we only have the contributions and with together with base figures. So therefore, you only compare the percentages. So therefore, we are not going to have absolute figures here, only the percentage. But we have the absolute figures, but we do the comparison among the absolute figures. Now, say, you can say JC Penney company has 61.4% of their cost of sales, net sales as cost of goods sold, whereas in quality department store, their contribution is 61.1%. I think there's no big difference. Both are same like. But if you go into a selling and administrative expenses, in JC Penney company, selling and administrative expenses is 27% of the total net sales, whereas quality department store company, they have only 17% of net sales, selling and administrative expenses. So that means now, if you compare these two organizations, it seems, or it looks like quality department store has a better selling and administration processes, because their cost is less than, or comparatively less than, the cost of JC Penney company when you compare it with net sales. Then other expenses is only 6% for JC Penney, but quality department stores other expenses is higher, 9.3. Now you can see, but if you look at these things, you can see the things are not in the scale. Now they have the JC Penney is a very big company than quality department store, but you do a comparison. So with these vertical analysis, though that is the beautiful part of it. No, someone might say that you can't really compare these two companies, because JC Penney is a very large company when you compare it with quality department store. You can see the total net sales, it is $19.8 million. whereas net sales of quality department store is only $2,097. So you can see it is 4,208 times larger than quality. Quality JC Penney is 4,208 times larger. So you can see the real this thing. But anyway, you can have a comparison between the real efficiencies and all by looking at these things. When we go into a ratio analysis, it expresses the relationship among selected items of financial statement data. Now we can classify these ratios into basically three different characters. Here is liquidity, such one group of ratios we call as liquidity ratios. Another group we call as profitability ratios. Another one we call as solvency ratios. Now we will see one by one and measure short-term ability of the company to pay its maturing obligations and to meet unexpected needs for cash. So that is what you call liquidity. It is a very short-term concept or short-term phenomenon where you have to face with the maturing obligations. Then and there you have to face with that. And not only that, maturing obligations and some unexpected needs of cash. That is what you mean by liquidity. Then when you call into profitability, it really measures the income or operating success for a given period of time. Solvency measures the ability of the company to survive over a long period of time, or in other words, long-term survival. For long-term, the ability to meet with long-term obligations. Now in the ratio analysis, you can see if you get a single ratio, it may not be meaningful. Now in a ratio, if you look at the ratio, either it has to be compared with another company or intra-company means the same companies some other year. You can do that. So in the slide it says intra-company means XYZ company as the company, and the comparison is made between 2008 and 2009. So that's what you call intra-company comparison of ratios. And intercompany means you can compare the same ratio, say liquid asset ratio of XYZ company with company A company. So that's an intercompany comparison. And there can be another comparison. So you can have your own ratios of a company, and those ratios can be compared with industry average. So for example, if you have say construction companies, civil construction companies, and you can calculate the ratios, financial ratios of those companies. And one company's ratios can be compared with getting all the company's ratios and get the average of it, and those averages can be compared with each and every company. So then we can see whether the each and every company has a average level of ratio or above average level of ratio or below average. So that's another type of a measurement you can make with regard to the comparisons. Now these industry averages are very much important, and a company can just look at the industry averages and see whether the company is that one company is above average or below average. Now, these liquidity ratios measure the short-term ability of the company to pay its maturing obligations and to meet unexpected needs for cash. Short-term creditors such as bankers and suppliers are particularly interested in assessing liquidity. Now, when you deal with a company, basically a bank deals with a company as a lender. Their main concern is the liquidity of the company, because the bank needs to know whether the company is in a position to service their short-term obligations. Now, the ratios are namely the current ratio, acid test ratio, receivables turnover, and inventory turnover. So we will see what these things are. I think these are very familiar things for you. I think if you do credit management or whatever, you have to go through these ratios basically. The current ratio is it's a simple one. You can just see what it is. Current assets divided by current liabilities. That tells you the current ratio. So if you have now, this was calculated on the basis of yeah. Now, on the basis of quality department store, these things been calculated. Yeah. If you go into the quality department store, you have 1,020,000 current assets, but they have only 344,500 worth of current liabilities. So that means now they have very big number of current assets, very big value of current assets than current liabilities. So it is 2.96 times. So therefore the current ratio is 2.96 to 1. So that means it is, you can say, for every dollar of current liabilities, the company has approximately $3 of current assets. Approximately 2.96 is very close to 3. Then acid test ratio. Now, what do you mean by acid test ratio? It is really now when you have the current assets divided by current liabilities, you get the current ratio. When you say acid test ratio, current assets minus stocks, the stocks to be taken off from that. Now you can see cash plus short-term investments plus receivables. So without stocks, the stocks being taken off from here. So others taken. So then it is acid test ratio. Now you can see acid test ratio is 1.02 to 1. So I think earlier now this is only 1 to 1, 1 is to 1. But if you take the current ratio, it is, you can see $1 of current liabilities being covered by $3 of current assets. But here acid test ratio only $1 covered by only one, very close to $1 amount of assets. So that means these are the more current assets. It is the immediate liquidity measurement. So you can see this particular quality department store is not that liquid as we thought earlier. Then you see the receivable turnover, net trade sales divided by average net receivables. Now, when you do sales, if you just say you have done sales, all the sales in trade basis, then you can have all the sales here. But if you have cash sales also, so you can have the net trade sales only. to be divided by the average net receivables, because the receivables are for the sales. So therefore, you can see the receivables, how many times the receivables turned over. So you can see receivable turnover is that 10.2 times. Now this is, the meaning is per annum, it really turns over 10.2 times. Or if you put it in terms of days, you can have it 365 days divided by 10.2. That means every 35.78 days it uh, turned over. Average 36 days. So that means the receivables are collected for every 36 days. So the person, the particular organization or the department store has to wait till 36 days to receive their uh, sales proceeds. Inventory turnover also the same. Cost of goods sold divided by average inventory. So it is 2.3 times, and the inventory turns over 159 days for each 159 days. But if you take industry averages, this might change, or industry to industry it is changing. Right. Now we just went through the liquidity ratios. Now under liquidity ratios you have current assets, current ratio, then you have asset test ratio, then creditors turnover, or receivable turnover ratio, then the inventory turnover ratio. All these are taken as liquidity ratios. Now, if the receivable turnover number of days is higher, and inventory turnover is higher, number of days higher, number of days inventory higher. So that means the cash cycle is very longer for the organization, and they need to provide, I mean, the liquidity, it will really crop up liquidity issues to the organization. Now we go into profitability ratio analysis. Income or the lack of it affects the company's ability to obtain debt and equity financing. Equity position and the ability to grow. Now these are the things are given here: profitability ratios, profit margin, asset turnover, return on assets, return on common stockholders' equity, earnings per share, price earnings and payout. Those are the general type of ratios which we can measure profitability. Net income divided by net sales is the profit margin. Asset turnover is the net sales divided by average assets. Net income divided by average assets, we call it some return on assets, ROE. Return on equity also. earnings per share. I think this is a simple thing. Yeah, you have to income divided by number of shares. You get the earnings per share. We call it EPS. Then price earnings ratio, market price per share and earnings per share. This division will give you the price earnings ratio. It's a times, 12.54 times. E ratio, we call it. It's a assessment of company's future earnings. Payout is dividend divided by net income. Debt to total assets is the solvency ratio. Or times interest earned. Interest cover, we call it. Income before income taxes and interest expenses divided by interest expenses. So that is times interest earned, or we call it interest service cover. Interest service cover. Right. Now I think we have gone through the, so this is a brief count of these financial ratios. There, what we need to understand is in the analysis, you have three different types. The one analysis is horizontal analysis, where you analyze the trend basically, and at the same time you do a comparison also. It can be done intra-company, within the company, or intercompany with other companies, or with the industry averages. So that horizontal analysis, or even you can do a vertical analysis. I mean, a vertical analysis also, you do some, you just get some base figures, and on the base figures you calculate percentages, and this particular thing can be used in order to compare two different organizations, or to check the real efficiencies and that sort of things in different scale organizations. And even then later on we just did the ratio analysis, and in the ratio analysis also you have different ratios, and we just group those ratios into the liquidity type of ratios, then profitability ratios, and the solvency ratios. So this is the summary of what we have learned. Yes. Yes, any questions on this? I think it's a very straightforward type of thing. Very, very straightforward, and no any confusions either. Anyway, if you have any type of confusion or whatever, you can just ask questions. But the general condition here, now they have given the this particular thing, I think acid test ratio, but normally I can remember the acid test ratio is given as current assets minus stocks divided by current liabilities. That is the normal way of putting it, but here it is being given in a separate, different way. It is given as but stocks being not taken, cash plus short-term investments plus receivables. divided by current liabilities. Now in the current assets, you don't have any stocks component here. So then you can remember, if you are not going to take stocks into the current assets category, then you divide it by current liability, then you get the acid test ratio. It really gives an idea about the immediate liquidity. Right. Anything else you need to cover? Now I want to just tell you that why we have gone through this. And before going into a more complicated performance analysis, basically this performance analysis is uh, very much related to banking organizations. We have already gone through a very simple type of financial statement analysis in order to revise or brush up what we have learned earlier. So the purpose of doing this is to give you a better understanding about financial perspective of an organization and how we can incorporate it into a balanced scorecard. Now, as it is, we have the freedom to select whatever the ratios into our financial perspective in our balance scorecard. So you have to be very clear about what we have gathered and what we have calculated on the basis of financial statements. Those are financial perspectives, and that all depends on your organization's requirements and your organization strategy. Therefore, having a better understanding about financial statements and financial parameters would be very important. Now, this times interest earned is uh, normally taken as interest service cover ratio. Right. Now, then we will go into a more complicated type of analysis on returns of a banking organization. So there you go through some sophistication where you get the return calculated on the basis of risk adjusted capital. So therefore there are two basic ratios there, financial ratios. And in a balanced scorecard, you can make use of these financial ratios as risk-based or risk-adjusted returns, because it is very much important for an organization, especially a banking organization. In the corporate level performance appraisal or performance evaluation. Now, one is called RORAC, that is return on risk-adjusted capital. There the risk adjustment is made on the basis of capital. And there's another one called risk adjusted return on capital, RAROC. So we will look into that by going through the presentation. And in the presentation, there are some calculations also. I think that's very important for you. If you have some work to be done, that would really put you into the lesson, and you would be more vigilant, more attentive to get what we are delivering. So therefore, I think it is better if you can say, at the end of the session, I will give you some questions or quizzes, like, then you will be in a position to uh, answer and give answers, and you can really uh, enhance your understanding by doing that. So I will go to that presentation also. Anyway, before going into that presentation, can you just exchange ideas about what we have done now, the performance evaluation or ratio analysis of financial ratio analysis. So I really welcome your questions or your queries on these things. Anything which you need to clarify. Now the real requirement of having financial analysis is to incorporate this financial perspective to the balance scorecard. So therefore, this financial analysis will give you a certain type of understanding, and you have to select the financial parameters depending on your strategy and vision. Then only it can be incorporated into the balance scorecard. Right, we will go to the presentation. Right, the heading, ROREC, RAROC, and other KPIs. ROREC is return on risk adjusted capital. RAROC is risk adjusted return on capital. Not only these things, we will talk in terms of other KPIs also. These are basically financial, but some incorporation of risk also come in here. Traditional bank performance analysis carries three basic flows. Now, I think we are really referring to the corporate performance. So therefore, the balance scorecard is one sort of performance analysis. There are some other analyses also. Now, this is another one because we call it risk-based return analysis. Now, just look at it. It ignores the wide diversity in strategies pursued by different institutions. Because here also, you need to just think about the strategies followed by different organizations in order to give the performance evaluations. So in normal bank performance analysis, it would not be taken into consideration. That is another one flaw of it. The next problem is banks' total assets no longer serve as a meaningful yardstick, because banks will have a very big amount or very substantial portion of off-balance sheet assets in the balance sheet. Not on the balance sheet, it is not in the balance sheet, so off-balance sheet we call it. Contingencies and commitments line. So all are off-balance sheet activities. So therefore, the total assets will not serve that purpose, because it is been really you can't say anything just by looking at the total assets, and the analysts won't provide any direct information. How the bank is engaged in creation of shareholder value, it doesn't give any meaning on that. Now we just look at it. Now you can just look at the small bar chart here. It really gives you an understanding about performance gap of banks. Now, branch customers have high expectations but indicate a variety of service problems. Now, these are the preferences of bank customers. Now, one preference is taken as knowledgeable personnel. I think 83% of customers, they value knowledgeable personnel. 78% of customers value enough tellers in busy times. I think you all can understand that in a bank, in most of the cases, in lunch times, normally there can be about 5 to 6 tellers in the bank counters. In lunchtime, there might be only 1 or 2. So that happens. Now you can see the customers, they respond to that. They say they prefer enough tellers in busy times. Then they need automated teller machines also. They have about 46%. It's not a new thing now. Then coinage. Oh, sorry, concierge assistance and personal personal computers. Now these are the preferences. Actually, the highest preference would be knowledgeable personnel. So you can see the customer expectations and the problems. Teller lines too long, hours not convenient, tellers too slow, inconvenient locations, resolving problems is a hassle, takes too long to open accounts, takes too long to get information on new accounts, takes too long to get info on current accounts, accessing safety deposit boxes too complicated. Now, all these are the customer concerns, right? Now you can see, even though these things are there, the banks are not having any knowledge on that. That is the issue. This performance measurement will not give any idea about those things. So, and the other thing is now different banks pursue different strategies, very diverse strategies. Now, UBPR means Uniform Bank Performance Ratios. Most banks did similar things which were reflected in, no, those days actually, most of the banks did similar things. They accepted deposit and made loans, and many interest rates were regulated. Primary differentiation of performance was balance sheet composition. That is the only thing in those days, but nowadays things are very different. Today, banks may pursue sharply different strategies. Now, that is why if you try to make use of a balance scorecard for banks, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful because the banks they use different strategies, very sharply different. Now you can see, now this is a type of a discussion with regard to different types of ratios or different type of measurements. Now, we at the start, we just said return on asset is not a independent indicator, it's a bias indicator because the assets may not give a proper indication of the bank because they do more off-balance sheet activities. Therefore, it's a biased indicator. But return on equity cannot be taken as such bias, and it is okay. It doesn't have the same weakness as ROA. That is why in our balance scorecard financial perspectives, we have taken return on capital employed as a parameter. When considering the entire bank, stockholders' equity must support all activities, whether on or off balance sheet. So that's a rationale behind this. It's a comparison of net income to equity captures the returns of to owners' contribution. But if you have similar strategic focus, then we can do a peer analysis. In order to identify the appropriate peer institutions, management should consider the following. So you have to look at the strategic focus of the particular organization. Now we are referring here, especially the banks. So strategic focus has to be looked at. What are the traditional balance sheet and off-balance sheet characteristics of firms with this focus? How do the bank's activities affect its operations? How do the bank's activities affect its operating revenue? Now, in a comparison, we need to have these things. Not only that, to incorporate the financial perspectives into a balance scorecard also, we need to go through this because we need to study the strategy and vision and all that to do that. The common starting point is to determine whether the bank's strategy is more loan driven or deposit driven. So these are very important in where you need to see whether the bank is loan driven or deposit driven. So that is a basic criteria to understand or identify a bank's strategic focus. A loan driven bank's profitability is generally a function of net interest income. Or the interest margin. And loan volume is a major factor in their profitability. Loan driven banks profitability. So loan driven banks profitability directly connected to the net interest margin, and loan volume is a major factor there. But when you go into a deposit driven bank, its profitability is generally a function of non-interest income. Its franchise value and deposit volume a major factor. You can see deposit driven banks profitability depends on certain factors. Loan driven banks profitability depends on other factors. This is very important, right? Now a loan driven bank finds that asset size is determined by loan demand. So that's a simple thing where you can understand asset size is determined by loan demand. Profitability is determined by loan economics. So what do you mean by loan economics? Loan yield versus cost of fund. Now if it is a loan driven bank, the bank has an attitude. All the employees, most of the employees, they might think that bank underwrites loans better than other banks. So its core earnings value is typically some multiple of core earnings. A deposit driven bank alternatively find this. Asset size is determined by the growth in core deposits. Value is determined by the bank's franchise value, measured by the market share of low cost core deposits. So that's a good indication. Now, in order to find out measurement device in our balance scorecard, this is a very important factor. Value is determined by the bank's franchise value. It is measured by the market share of low cost core deposits. So those are basically the current and savings deposits. Lower interest income, interest margins and non-interest expenses. Lower loan losses. Now, deposit driven banks may not have that much of loan losses. Investors in bank stocks are primarily concerned with whether the bank's management is creating value for stockholders. Now, this is a very important factor, the creation of value. Creation of value for the stockholders. Right. Now we have gone to a example. Now this is a simple example, and to give an awareness, buy 100 shares of PNC Financial at the beginning of 2001 for $73.06. The bank paid 192 per share in dividends that generated reinvestment income of $09.09. At the end of 2001, price of stock was 56.20. So the calculation is to find out the return to stockholders with regard to these shares. Now, you can just see share price is 73.06, but at the end of the 2001 the stock price was 56.2. Now what happens? In order to calculate the return, what we need to do is we need to get the capital gains calculated first, but there's no capital gains here. Capital losses are there because the price dropped. Price dropped from 73.06 to 56.2. But they had some income, dividends, and those dividends also been again reinvested, and that there's small income in that also. So altogether that is 1.92 plus 0.09, that is 2.01, and it is to be divided by 73.06, that is the initial price, and it comes to 20.3% or 0.203. But this is a minus value. It is not a return, it is a loss or minus return. Now sometimes you can come across a bank where they have characteristics of two banks. It can be traditional or customer bank, investment or house bank. Now in one bank, both characteristics may be there. Now you just see traditional bank, loans, core deposits, payment services, trade, asset management, and financial advisor. These are the customary type of a bank. But investment bank, you have portfolio of investments, non-core deposits, purchase liabilities, loan participations, asset sales, servicing, and bank-sponsored mutual funds. These are the characteristics of an investment bank. But you might come across a bank which has both of these features. Items are assigned based on whether the underlying activities pertain to bank customers or the bank itself. So that's another way of looking at the things. If the particular transactions are done on behalf of customers, it's a customer bank. But there are certain transactions, and we call them the proprietary transactions, then it will become an investment bank. And in evaluations, we sometimes do line of business profitability analysis or profitability pertaining to a certain line of business. So there what you do is to allocate operating expenses to activities that support bank customers. And bank management, banks can obtain at least a rough estimate of segment net income. It leads to the reporting and use of both financial and non-financial performance data based on specific customers. Now, many banks attempt to measure profitability by type of loan customer. In other words, the small business customers, middle market customers, corporate customers. Likewise, you have several customer level type indications. Consumer installment line, or type of deposits, type of depositor. Delivery system is branch, ATM, phone, home banking, and all the things are there. Right, now we have come to the main part of it. RAROC and RORAC. RAROC refers to risk-adjusted return on capital, while RORAC refers to return on risk-adjusted capital. But here our intention is to analyze the profitability and risk both precisely. Each line of business must have its own balance sheet and income statement. If you want to do this, each line of business should have its own balance sheet and income statement. But this is not a simple task. It's a difficult task, because there are some non-traditional activities. You can't say those need to have any equity support. Even traditional activities such as commercial lending and consumer banking complicate the issue, because they are also, these business units do not have equal amounts of assets and liability generated by customers. The critical issue is to determine how much equity capital to assign each unit. So this is another challenge the performance evaluators really face with. Assigning equity capital to each unit. Now this is another way, because if we need to do either RORAC or RAROC calculation, they are invariably you have to have a capital allocation for the particular unit. Now, one way of doing this is to have risk-based capital standards you can follow, or the size of assets. So therefore, one can just assign capital on the basis of regulatory capital or size of assets. Then you have to have some measure of each line of business riskiness. Now, first we can consider about risk-adjusted return on capital. Now, it is really risk-adjusted income divided by allocated capital. So then you might wonder, what do you mean by risk-adjusted income? So income has to be adjusted for risk. So what do you mean by risk here? It is the unexpected losses So for example, if a loan-driven bank is having an income of 200 million rupees, but through the loans you expect to lose 25 million rupees, then your risk-adjusted income would be 200 minus 25, that is 175. And if you divide it by capital, you will get the risk-adjusted return on capital. This is as simple as that. But your understanding has to be given, because you have to look at the criteria. And if you want to do this on the basis of capital, so you need to understand, or you need to identify the amount of capital assigned for the particular business line. Then the next part is return on risk adjusted capital. There you have to be aware of the allocated risk capital. So there the adjustment is done on the capital, not the return. Normally the capital is adjusted for a maximum potential loss, and it really based on the probability of future returns or volatility of earnings. So what do you mean by that? Even in your performance evaluation, you have to be careful about the future earnings, the volatility of future earnings. So what do you mean by that? When your earnings coming down, since the volatility is so volatile, then it's a type of a loss you are going to make. Future returns, you might have a loss. So what you have to do is capital. You have to have capital to absorb the maximum potential loss. Now, this is an example given here. Now, a particular organization called a bank called PNC, it's a hypothetical bank. They reported results for 7 distinct lines of business. So, banking business, asset management and processing. Now, under banking business, they have 4 lines of business. Under asset management and processing, they have 3 lines of business. Regional community banking is there, corporate banking is there, PNC real estate finance is there, business credit is there. Then advisory, BlackRock and PFPC means another bank they control. Now this data obtained from PNC's management accounting system based on internal assumptions about revenue and expense allocations and assignment of equity to each line of business. Now you can see earnings being given, total banking business, they earned net, they have the net loss. The revenue was In 2000 it is 3,225. 2001 it is 3,342. Revenue, there's an increase in revenue, but loss being reduced. Average assets are given here. But asset management and processing also, there are three business lines: PNC advisors, BlackRock, and PFPC. They are also the earnings being recorded, revenue being recorded. Now you can just see the consolidated amounts are given. Because as per the total business results, the bank has earnings of 567, 281 plus 286, that is 5867. And other means some expenses. Continuing operations result is 377. Discontinued operations, you just add 5. So the things been given this way. Now I am not going to just elaborate on these things because it is self-explanatory. Now what I need to tell you is right. We will see how this is being done. Now this is the net income for 30 months, monthly net income in millions of dollars. There are 30 observations for 30 months. Now it is already calculated, the mean being calculated, 5.06 million mean net revenue. Standard deviation is 0.735. Now by looking at this, can you just say how this risk capital is calculated? Now, what do you mean by standard deviation? Now, this is the deviation from the mean, and even we call it the volatility. And by looking at the volatility, you are in a position to get the risk capital, because your risk capital should have the ability to absorb your loss. So can you just see how it is being calculated? Right now, what we have done was we just calculated the risk capital by getting the details there. Now, when you say risk-free rate is 5.5, that is annual rate. But we are talking about a 1 month's profit, 1 month's return. So how are we going to get 1 month's return? By looking at annual one, to just divide it by 12. And if you multiply it with the risk capital, you will get the the volatility amount. So therefore, in order to get that, you need to get what is risk capital. So most recent month, risk capital is 160.364 million. And 6.4 is the last month's net income. So net income divided by risk adjusted capital will give you the RORAC. That is 47.89. Right, I will just elaborate on these things. Any question on this? Any question on this? Now I want to just emphasize the importance of having this risk adjusted performance measures. So you can incorporate those things into the financial perspective in balance scorecard in terms of a bank, because your subject is corporate banking, if I remember correct. So you need to just get an idea about banking organizations basically. Now, the rationale behind the calculations, you got 30 months figures for monthly net return, and the volatility is calculated as 0.735. Now, what do you mean by volatility? The deviation from the mean. So that is the risk. Now, in order to have a capital cover that risk, so you need to have the risk-free rate and see how much capital you need to have. So the risk capital would be that. So risk capital divided by the monthly rate should be equal to, sorry, you can see that you can go to the presentation and see. The monthly rate into risk capital is equal to the deviation. So the risk capital is equal to 0.735 divided by this one. So in other words, you have to multiply 0.735 with 12 and divide by 0.055. Then you will get this answer. Any questions on this? So therefore, the risk return on risk adjusted capital is calculated by getting the income as 6.4 and it is divided by risk capital, that is 160.364, and you get 0.0399 monthly. And if you want to put it annual basis, you have to multiply it with 12 and it comes to 47.89% annually. I think with that, I think uh, anyway, you do you have any concerns on this? The basis of calculation? Yes, anything which you need to clarify? Right, anyway, I think my intention is to just deliver these things into your to you, and you should get a clear understanding. Uh, Now today's sessions, we went through the balance scorecard first, and we talked about the perspectives in the balance scorecard: financial perspective, customer perspective, in internal business process perspective, and the learning and growth perspective. Under these perspectives, we went through the different mapping of strategy and the vision into the perspectives, and doing some action plans and the measurements, targets and all. And we discussed about a sample balance scorecard and some strategy mapping. I think with that, you might have gained some type of understanding about that. Then we discuss about the financial statement based performance analysis, ratios for horizontal analysis, vertical analysis and all. Then we went into risk adjusted return and return on risk adjusted capital type of things. Those are very important because for a bank in terms of banking organization, these risk adjusted returns are very important. And we can really incorporate these things into the financial perspective of balance scorecard. When you do balance scorecards for the banks. So with that, I wind up the session today. I can give you a few minutes for you to ask any question on the delivery of today's lectures. Someone asked question, how you got the revenue? So the revenue was, it's a data. It's a data because now they just showed it as a data type of a thing. Just see, I will show you that. These most recent 30 months observations. Monthly revenue less expenses. So they have given that because we don't need to ask that question because the result is given. So 30 results are given for 30 months. I mean, finishing with the last one. So that is how the revenue was given. I mean, they have given revenue less expenses. So I think that matter is okay. Right. Anything else you need to clarify? Right. So yeah, I think that's a good question. What type of question will come to? Anyway, now when in my second or third session, I will really come up with those hints and all. And I really tell you the way it can come. Still, it is too early for me to just give you some type of hints. But anyway, at the end of the second or third lecture, I will just give you the, give you the types of things which you need to go through in order to answer the question. Anyway, I am really, I will try to just give you a approximate type of subject areas where I want to test you. Right. It can be a case study or whatever. Right. Right. With that, I wind up today's session, and thank you very much for your active participation. And make sure that you will enhance your active participation in time to come. Thank you very much.